Hello, 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 and welcome to the Bridges and Beacons podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Meyerson, and today I'm speaking with my friend, Dr. Jeff Feinman. We spoke back in, I think it was around August 2024, and we'll be sure to link that interview in the show notes as well. But Jeff is a molecular biologist turned holistic vet and the founder of Holistic Actions, an online platform that is helping empower pet parents and transform pet care. Drawing on decades of experience in veterinary, homeopathy, and holistic medicine, he teaches conscious, compassionate communication and a heart centered framework that helps pet guardians both heal their animals and nurture deep wellness. Jeff, thank you so much for joining me again.
Thank you for having me again, my friend.
I love the work that you're doing. And I think
Thanks.
we, those of us who are really on our own holistic health journey, many of us are animal, plant, nature people, have that holistic vision in terms of health and well-being for all. So when I first met you, I got so excited because traditional veterinary medicine, just like traditional medicine for human beings, um, at least in the sense of the past, we'll say 200 years, has really been more about illness than wellness and and treating the disease or the dysfunction rather than looking at it from a systems perspective. So I want to start by just, can you give us a little bit of a, let's say somebody's listening, give them a little bit of a sense of what makes it different to approach veterinary care from a holistic lens.
Thank you for asking that question. But first, I'm going to define what I mean or what you mean by holistic lens, and that is the standard spelling, for example, is HO with an H, and holistic looks at the bigger picture and the whole. First is what we learn in vet school and we learn in medicine and what really science is all about, which is reductionistic medicine. So what we need to do is kind of balance both holistic and reductionistic and take holistic into a step beyond the H. So we can move beyond the H into the W. Where holistic is spelled with the W,
Mm,
holistic, because that is what we're looking at. Because there are holistic vets and docs where it's all about the supplement or the food or the blood test or those are really great things to inform our bigger decision, but our bigger decision needs to be based on that holistic paradigm that's based in love, energy, mitochondria, all kinds of things that are outside of what we learn in vet school and are now coming into mainstream medicine. And the great news, Kelly, is that you and all pet parents can do it. Hey, it's going to
mm,
be probably at least a decade or two before this paradigm really is, part of the vet school curriculum.
mm.
That's coming.
It's coming. I love that so much. And I think you're so right, adding the W back in. And as you were saying that, I was like, could the W be like well-being, the W for well-being, bringing that. And when I think about well-being and I think of looking at things holistically, um, you know, not from a traditional medicine sense, but in my practice in occupational therapy, our holistic view means that an individual operates within a variety of environments, in systems, family systems, group dynamics, and it's more dynamic than it is static, right? So a child functioning in a classroom looks different than a child functioning in the community versus in their home. And looking at all of the places and spaces and people they interact with, plus the whole inner landscape, and looking at how they're functioning is so important to me that somebody will say to me, well, this child won't sit still, for example. And for me, it's not like the function of a child is not to sit still. Stillness and sitting in stillness is so that you can, you know, have a meal with your family, participate in learning. So I think I really feel such a true like kinship with what you're talking about here, because I never want to look at a child as a problem or a behavior. And sometimes there are things that individually need to be addressed, but sometimes it's like if you ask a fish to climb a tree, they're not going to succeed, right? So, and if we're measuring the fish in the tree compared to a squirrel, we have two different skill sets that function better in different environments. But we don't want to put the squirrel in the water because they don't necessarily swim. So, all that to say, that I really appreciate what you're saying, and it takes traditional pet care from the idea of are we giving them the medicine that they need in order to be healthy and cure them when they're sick, to how are we creating a lifestyle and joy, and to use the word that's behind you, vitality, with our pets. How are we giving them vitality? So I know we went deep into talking about beam in the first episode, but can you just take us through what beam stands for? It's an acronym, and I love an acronym. So tell
Sure.
us what that
Oh,
stands
then you're
for.
gonna like the book. Or yeah, the
I
book is
do.
full of acronyms.
I
Yeah.
love all the acronyms.
Beam stands for the quality of life factors, so things that we can see every day in our pets that reflect their quality of life, and they are behavior, energy, appetite, and mood.
Mm,
And we can semi-quantitatively give a beam score every day. Actually, when
mm,
an animal is sick, I have clients and members that do it, students that do it 2, 3 times a day. The
mm.
beam score in the morning, the beam score in the afternoon, the beam score at night. And you can get pretty darn accurate.
Wow.
Have people responding, well, yeah, we're going the right direction. We went from 7 to 7.25. Mm.
So for the pet parents at home who are playing along, so we're looking at their behavior, their energy, their appetite, and their mood. And then how are we scoring each? How many points does each get?
Oh, we use a 0,
Mm-hmm.
which is no vitality and basically not alive. So the worst is 0, the best is 10.
Mm-hmm.
And 10 is, as good as you've ever seen your pet, and sometimes even better than that. There are some pets that never get a 10, and there are some pets that I know that are very, very sick that are 9.9s.
Mm. Mm. So when you look at their score, are you scoring each area or looking at them as all of those pieces interplaying?
Yes,
Okay.
both, both.
Both.
Each area contributes to the overall score.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. So starting with behavior, if somebody is looking at their pet, what are some of the behavior indicators that may show signs that there's a lack of vitality or a lower vitality?
Yeah, I think one of the bigger ones is, do they want to engage with you in life,
Mm-hmm.
or do they want to go off and be on their own? I
Mm,
mean, I'll give you an example of a dog I had, a rescue that was very, very traumatized, and her behavior was to go be in a crate. She was in a room, and I went in the room. She'd go leave the room and be in the crate by herself. And that was her preference.
Mm,
But a normally engaged human being and animal, especially a dog, would like to be with you and they want to know what's going on. They want to engage in their environment. So as behavior decreases, and with behavior, mood, those two go together.
mm,
But as that decreases, they want to engage less and less and less, and everything
mm.
else goes along with that.
Yeah. And what about in terms of energy? And I imagine, I've had, pets that are puppies and pets that are more on the elderly scale. Do we find that the energy will shift over the lifespan? And like you said, like they could be at a 9, even though, they compared to a puppy, maybe it would be like a 2.
Different, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. It's scored differently for a 14-year-old dog than it would be for a 1-year-old dog. Yeah, if my 2-year-old rescue, started limping and having lower energy and sleeping a lot, I'd be very concerned to lower her beam right away. My 14, 15-year-old dog did that? Maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's out of the norm for the dog,
Mm,
that's a different thing. And that's where beam comes in, strongest. When you track it, you can watch the fluctuations. So when they're getting sick, before you actually see any physical symptoms, their beam is always, almost always going to drop.
mm, yes. I've definitely seen this. I have a little 2.5-year-old Cavapoo named Olive, and she's typically very energetic, loves to be with us. And she has a difficult time. I think it's something like an allergy. Like every once in a while, she'll start chewing on her paws, and it becomes like an obsession. And I know I've heard some people say like sometimes it's an anxiety that they have a nervous energy. Um,
Mhm.
but looking at it sort of through the beam, we notice sometimes like there's a shift in her mood. She's like more obsessive about chewing on her paws. She maybe doesn't want 2 meals a day. She's only eating 1 meal a day. And her energy can be a little bit more like on the higher sense, but not bubbly puppy energy like anxious energy.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, sure. Yeah.
So looking at that, I'm sure like most pet parents, the first instinct is, okay, let me see your paws. What's going on?
Well,
What are you
I was
doing?
actually gonna ask you, does her beam change before she starts showing? Can you
Yeah.
remember if her beam changes subtly before she starts? Because that's really the basis of the paradigm,
Mm-hmm.
is that, the chewing, the allergic imbalance, because allergy is an imbalance in the immune system. It's a result of that imbalance, which is below a threshold. But then maybe there's a pollen or an egg outside. For some reason they start go above the threshold and start to itch.
Mm-hmm.
And our job really is not really even, I mean, identifying the things that cause that trigger the itching are important. But our job really is to rebalance that vitality, rebalance the immune system.
Mm-hmm.
You can do through, the actions that are in the book, that are in the supplement that we can talk about a little bit today.
Mm. Yeah. And it's interesting because I think you might think it's just a behavior, but when we teased it out, we noticed changes in appetite, maybe some foods that, sometimes are fine, but other times will upset her belly. She's always been like a little bit of like a very sensitive gut girly. And
Now, what does that mean? I'm sorry to interrupt, but what does that mean?
I mean, like she would get an upset belly.
Why? Why do you think that happens?
I think when she eats anything That's a little too rich.
Imbalance. Yeah, a dog is designed. We're talking about helping them to be the best they can be. They're designed to eat a wide variety.
Yeah.
All of my students feed a different food almost every day.
Hmm.
I feed 20 different things every day, whether it's treat. Beam is one sign of balance, but BM, bowel
Hmm.
movement, is another
Hmm.
sign of microbial balance and
Yes.
balance of the GI. And I apologize for interrupting you.
No, I love that. I think that's great. And I think the her bowel movements is a challenge because she has a strong preference to go for a walk and have a bowel movement versus like if we know she needs to go, like just being able to let her out. And believe me, if we can take her, we love to do that. But sometimes the moment doesn't allow for that, the busy schedules. So I know when we can, we try to do that. And I really think about that as like that's part of what brings her joy, like that's she wants to use that walk and that and I know from working with children, like work with a lot of children whose bodies stay very still, and without that motility and that mobility, it affects their gastrointestinal system. So I wonder sometimes if it just helps her body to move by moving more, and that she would prefer to do that, to go for a walk, to have a bowel movement, and then she wants to come back and have breakfast. So if we try to change that schedule on her, she's like she'll turn away food, which is a new experience for me because I've always had labs of different ilk, and they will literally eat anything that's food and possibly not food. At least that's
At,
been my
at,
experience
at any time,
at
yes.
any time. So it's interesting to me. And you could think like, oh, well, get her to just conform to what the schedule is, but that's not putting her at the best for how she is most vital.
And that, my friend, is what it's all about. And you just said such a big mouthful because what you're describing is helping her align with her natural self, the way she should be. And our society does just the opposite. And of course, our use of antis, whether it's antibiotic against life or anti-inflammatory against inflammation, which is the process of life,
Mm-hmm.
that's the basis for our understanding. Not that it's wrong, but it's a fragment. It's like saying, reductionistic medicine isn't wrong. As you said, I was a molecular biologist for a decade and conventional vet, and I love that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We need to bring into real life and reframe a lot of these questions that you're bringing up, which is why I'm interrupting. We're not even the questions, but well, of course it's an allergy, and of course it's incurable. The reality is, when you see an allergy for what it is, you can get rid of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's interesting because even though I would say in New Jersey right now, the allergens are increasing, I think because it's nice out, we've been going for more walks, and I see less of the chewing. So I think it's interesting.
Well, that's counterintuitive if you think about the fact that there are more and more triggers out there, but the reason it's not counterintuitive when you reframe it is because she's happier, she's
Hmm.
engaging, she's practicing pranayama when she sniffs, and basically what she's doing, she's upgrading her mitochondrial function. And
Mm.
the mitochondria are the source of vitality in the body.
Hmm.
And mitochondria, brain, psychoimmunology. Yeah, I don't know if you ever read Anatomy of an Illness. We probably may have talked about that. It was a book back in the 50s and 60s by a journalist who had a life-threatening, crippling and painful disease, and he basically laughed it away
Mm,
by watching candid camera reruns and Marx Mulder movies. He got his, and he was the N equal one, I guess, that led to what's now called psychoneuroimmunology, which is the connection of it all. And we look at UCLA, the UCLA Psychoneuroimmunology Institute is named after Norman Cousins, the author of
mhm.
that book.
Yes. I have not read the book, but I'm so familiar with his experiment and the implications. And I think it's interesting because what you were saying earlier about, you know, we've got a little bit of time before everything catches up. If you think about, he was talking about that in the 50s and 60s. And if you know anybody who has been through any kind of, cancer treatment or extended illness treatment, there is a lot of mental health piece, mindset, massage, acupuncture, traditional and untraditional therapies kind of existing together because the mindset it's been understood that that mindset and your capacity to understand your body's ability to heal despite what information is there about your muscles, your cells, what's going on, that it's incredible to me that now we are embracing that to an extent.
We definitely are, and oncology is the prime example.
Mm-hmm.
And that is exactly where quality of life began to, you know, raise its head. So yeah, now it's beginning to go into more and more medicine, and vet med will gradually and does follow human medicine in a lot of ways. I was in the ER with the cat the other day, and as the veterinary nurse was discharging a client that was worried about their pet, she was teaching her the conscious, compassionate communication method, telling her how to breathe. And, it's all about being mindful and still and not to worry and to be in the moment.
Mm.
So, yeah, all those skills that our animals can help us learn. Which
Mm-hmm.
is, which is, a big part of this in the book is that the animals really are a gateway for our own health, our own improvement, our own alignment with with
Mm.
with what is with the present moment.
That's so true. And I can see that on a personal level. I can see that, you know, um, in stories and experiences with people interacting with animals and receiving, not only the health benefit, the well-being benefit, and demonstrating improvement in their own vitality through that time with that animal. Yeah.
Yep, for sure. I mean, the health benefits for us are well documented.
Mm.
Whether it's a reduction in blood pressure, whether it's a reduction in blood in glucose or heart rate or just happiness. Aaron Beck, founder of cognitive behavioral therapy, before he passed, said he was talking about people with serious dysfunction, emotional, mental dysfunction. He said that dysfunction gets better when they're in their sweet spot, meaning when they're doing what makes them happiest.
Mm.
That is the basis for positive psychology and for path to pet wellness.
Mm.
Because animals are innately happy. They're not in their thinking brains. They're in the moment. And that's why they can help bring us into the moment and out of our brains and into our body and into the world around us.
I love that. I'm writing that down because I think that's animals are innately happy. They're in the moment and they can help bring us there, which I think is what really draws people towards having a pet. And, I know I've had pets who seem to have really high emotional intelligence and the capacity for, you know, being compassionate and empathetic when you're having a difficult time. Um, and I think rather than looking at animals as sort of lesser than, it's the idea that there isn't a, some people would say like the animal kingdom is they're lesser than the humans. The humans are hierarchical, above animals, that they do possess high intelligence and capacity for high emotions.
And that also is well documented in all animals, whether they're mammals or I know a friend of mine it's working with a parrot. I think it's got hundreds or thousands of words and can learn and yeah. So yeah, for sure. And really, in essence, we're talking about they're intelligent. We know that. And we know they're able to think, but they're conscious and
Mm-hmm.
they're conscious of what's going on around them. That same consciousness is in nature. It's in all animals, like you said. Animals are not below us. They are our kin. And that's
Mm-hmm.
really what we're talking about is the kinship worldview.
Mm.
And that kinship worldview is the worldview of every indigenous culture around the world. Certainly, there's actually a great book called Returning to the Kinship Worldview. And it's by a bunch of essays and a bunch of different topics from different scientists around the world talking about how this is going to help us align, which is really what it's all about. Better we align. I mean, you brought up the word, or you said at the beginning that, it's not static, it's dynamic. Well, life is a dynamic equilibrium.
Mm-hmm.
It's always changing, but always trying to maintain that balance.
Mm-hmm.
And we just have to view our animals in that way.
Yes.
And it's easy
It's
because
so easy.
it's easy. And then they make it easy, fun, and you said happy. Yeah. I think I go beyond happy and say joy and love. Because I don't need an external valid. My dog doesn't need me to do anything to be pure joy. I
Hmm.
just go outside, she finds a rock, it's like, "Whoopee."
I love that. That's so true. That's so true. So it's 2026. There's a lot happening. Shock face. There's a lot happening in the world. There are definitely some factors that could challenge um, the approaches that you teach and that I know we both believe in. So, how do we empower others um, to keep the support and keep the momentum going for movement towards more holistic practice? That's a big question, I know, but maybe baby steps for people who feel really strongly and maybe feel a little bit stuck right now in terms of what they can do, um, whether it's from a public perspective, like what's going on in the news, financially, um, just small steps for people to feel more empowered.
And that is the key right there because I'm not going to touch on politics or finances or anything. They have nothing to do with our animals except the way they affect us.
Sure.
And, our anxiety is going to affect them because we know it's all an energetic vibration that affects them.
Mm-hmm.
So with the world all around us, but I think the answer is just what you said, and that is to become more empowered. stop giving our power away to, doctors or veterinarians. I mean, I go to the vet and I say, oh, that's interesting. I gather the information. They make the recommendations, and then we go and have a therapeutic sniff walk or take a homeopathic medicine or a special happy meal and those things are almost all that our animals need to remain balanced and remain themselves. Because really what we're talking about is helping them return to what they were before we began intervening so much.
Yes, we do that, don't we?
We do. Yeah, that's our job.
Yes. So I need to share with everyone your book that officially came out this year, Jeff, Path to Pet Wellness. I have mine on my digital device, but I know you have a
I've
hard
got the
copy in
hard
hand.
copy.
I love it. I love it. So this is a passion project for you, I know. And I think what I love so much about the book, not only that it's super accessible and easy to understand and teaches people through a number of gorgeous acronyms, including BEAM, how to become more aligned as a pet parent to help. But you also have so many beautiful stories of your own experiences, your childhood, your mom, that I find are so relatable for other people. So tell us about the book, how it came to be, and of course, how people can get a copy for themselves.
Well, I will answer your last question first
Perfect.
because the copy themselves is you order anywhere online or go to holisticactions.com/book and it'll bring you right there and you get all kinds of cool bonuses. But yeah, you can buy it wherever you like. Where did why this book now? And when I think about it, and this I did not realize until recently, the book actually started in the late 1990s.
Hmm.
When I was in my first homeopathy class, I just recently learned about homeopathy by rebalancing. I was experimenting because the book is based on research, observation, my patients, and clinical research, molecular biology type stuff, psychoimmunology, blah, 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 mitochondria and all that. Which, by the way, was all part of the book, but they made me take it all out. So now it's like you said, it's more accessible. And now I have no idea where I was going with that. Oh, no, so I discovered that there was more to medicine than what I learned in vet school. Found homeopathy by rebalancing my own allergies, and that's why I mentioned research because I've got dozens of those little research experiments. But my nature is a natural curiosity, and it's pretty extreme. And you actually used to bug my parents and my brother when it's like, oh, look at that. And anyway, in the 90s, Dr. Pitcairn that was teaching us some veterinary homeopathy, was the first class. At the end of the first class, he had us raise our hands about what percentage, because most of us were already practicing, as a veterinary. So what percentage you're practicing? And I went up to him afterwards and I said, I don't understand the question. I mean, this is good medicine. Rebalancing in the body, getting the body to heal is good medicine. You're asking us who's practicing good medicine, who's not? The book is just my way of highlighting what good medicine, it's scientific wellness is all about.
Mm,
'Cause scientific wellness is good medicine.
mm. I love
And
that.
and that is not a term that I made up. That is So the Institute for Systems Biology, the founder Lee Hood, who actually wrote one of the textbooks that I used when I was in my immunology classes back in the 70s and 80s. So it's full circle, but Lee Hood wrote something called 4P medicine, and that is scientific wellness. It's personalized, it's predictive, proactive, and participatory. And that's what the book is all about, all those 4Ps. That was actually the one criticism I've gotten the book so far is there are too many Ps in the book. Because then you've got the 4Ps of symptoms as well, but the prominent, peculiar, and problematic symptoms.
Right. That's okay. I love an acronym, all the acronyms. It's just I've just learned because I'm in a profession that also we use tons of acronyms. I've just learned over time that you can never assume that your audience knows an acronym. So we're just forever explaining, writing reports, the acronym which stands for blah, which means blah blah blah, just to give people. But I do love an acronym because they're pretty sticky for people. Beam will stick for people, and it's beam. It's a good acronym because we want our pet to be beaming, right?
It's like the beam of light. It's like the beacon of light coming from the lighthouse, putting us safety. So yeah, it's like the balance beam where we have to balance, that dynamic equilibrium.
Love it. I love it. This is where it gets so exciting. And we'll definitely make sure we put the information about the book where you can get it. And I know you also have many ways for people to engage with you. You mentioned the website holisticactions.com as another resource in place for people. And you were showing me before we started recording that if you go into the book, there's a code or QR that you can scan to give you more information. I'm scanning through my book to see if I can find it. You could
Yeah,
probably catch it
see if
quicker
I
than I
can get it.
can.
Yeah, I'll try. It's at the very end of the preface. So it's right at the
Yes,
beginning, and it just says scamming.
scan me.
And we'll lead to 10 hours of videos, the master classes that we had before the book, the fireside chats that we had before the book. What they all do is they break down. They're with leaders from around the world. So this book does not exist in a vacuum. It is
Mm,
the way we're all thinking nowadays. So the 10 hours, I got 40 or 50 different people on it, or actually 30 or 40, that are all thinking the same way. We hone down into things like the conscious compassion communication method, mitochondria, breathing, that kind of thing.
I
And
love
and then there are supplements about how to work with your vet and how to do all this on a day-to-day basis. Did you mention HA, which, HA, laughter is fundamental. Laughter, playing, singing, being like a child.
mm,
So holistic actions actually exist to teach the methods in the book.
I love it. I love this so much. I appreciate you. And I want to give you a chance to just, before we close, just share one little piece of advice or thought to leave people with. Um, and what might that be?
What's coming to me today, Kelly, is that the most important thing is that we can think different, that there's another way. We may not know what that other way is yet, but it's there,
Mm,
and not to give up. So if you're dog goes into the veterinarian wagging its tail and they're happy and they're eating, but they get a really bad diagnosis. And the vet says, well, we really can't do anything for you. Maybe the kindest thing is put him to sleep. Well, I think your dog is saying, I want to go home now, please. And yeah, that's what you want to do. So follow your animal's cues. Think differently. They think differently than we think as molecular biologists and veterinarians.
Mm,
Just know there's always options. It's always another way.
I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Um, thank you for the beautiful advice, and I really encourage everybody to follow many of these resources. And thank you for taking us through the journey of some of the books and individuals through. I mean, I think you took us through the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s up to today.
We
Um,
did, didn't we? Yeah.
you did. So you took us a lot of really beautiful places to look. And if we look at right now in 2026, um, we can be empowered both for ourselves and for our pets. And you're definitely one of the resources and tools available to us. So thank you again for being here, Jeff. And listener, thank you for being here. If this really spoke to you, please share this podcast episode with people you know. I'm sure if you listen to the Bridges and Beacons podcast and like me, you love animals, um, find the other people that love animals as well and share this with them. And I would say this book is a great gift to a new pet owner, somebody who just adopted a pet, rescued one, or somebody who has always loved animals and would appreciate the information and the connection. So, thank you again, and we'll see you next time on the podcast.
And thank you again. Thank you for the plug and see you all soon.
Thank you, Jeff. All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye for now.